Hey guys, so this Christmas I'm going to be doing a little Christmas stop motion animation with these lovely little penguins, and at the moment I have this kind of like little felt backdrop to animate them on, but I just want to jazz things up a little more. I want some more scenery. I want to really bring this set to life. So rather than building like a full extra set, because I think this felt looks fine, I think it gives off the kind of just like stark iciness of the Arctic, Antarctic. Where are penguins from? So somewhere that's quite icy and desolate looking, and that's fine. That's obviously how penguins live, but I just want to make things a bit jazzier for the animation, so I'm going to make some trees. So I decided to have a go at making trees out of an old book that I got from a charity shop. I took a chunk of the book and then took each page, folded it into the spine, and then again into the spine, and then folded the bottom section up, folded that page over, and then just kept going. It did take a while, but I got there in the end. And then glued the two outside pieces of paper together. And I really wasn't very happy with this. I mean, it sort of looks like a tree, but it's just looks like a really sad tree. It's like, it's not voluminous enough. Like if you kind of concertina it together at one side, I can see how like it would look nice. But there's just not enough volume. I don't think there's enough pages. Also, let me get a penguin to demonstrate. Like this penguin is so much smaller than this tree. And I know obviously some trees are absolutely massive, but I still just think this is just the proportions are going to be off in the animation. So I decided to make some smaller trees. So what I've done here is I've taken a bigger chunk of the book. So I think I used 20 pages as opposed to 10 in the larger tree. And then what I did was I actually cut out a smaller section. So what we've got is a smaller tree, but a fuller tree. I then used exactly the same process as I did for the bigger tree, obviously just using smaller pieces of paper. It was slightly more fiddly and obviously took a bit longer because there was more pages, but I do think it looks better. And I'm so much happy with this. It just looks so much fuller. It's like standing up better on its own. It just, this is definitely a better approach. Maybe I did something wrong before. I don't know. I've never tried doing this before. Probably should have tried before I made the video, shouldn't I? But I do like to include the mistakes so you know that it's absolutely fine to make mistakes. Just give it a try. What's the worst that could happen? I think the penguin looks more in proportion to the tree. I think it looks better. So I went ahead and made a bunch more trees. Now I have a small forest of trees. I did want to try something a bit different. So I also took a chunk of paper and cut out a round shape to make a sort of bush or shrub type thing, but it didn't quite work. I think the problem was because I wasn't folding the pages, there wasn't any volume added, so I just got this pathetic little bit of, this is just nothing. It's just give up on that one. Now the plan was to add these to the set that I'd already made. I say set, it was basically just two pieces of felt, like a blue felt backdrop and white felt for the snow on the base of the set. But I just don't think these quite go. These are like a totally different aesthetic to the set. The set is very much like cartoony, cute, colourful, and these are giving like light academia, which is, I mean, I like that vibe, but it just, they don't really mix. So I decided to try and make a slightly different set because apparently I didn't have enough things to do. So what I basically did was made a very basic like cardboard set, and then used the rest of the book, ripped it into pieces, and then did like paper mache over the set, which was fun. Not done paper mache since school. And so after leaving that set to dry, we have this little set here. So I'm just going to arrange our little trees in here, and I think like they very much like go. It looks like a matching set now. I still don't think it matches the penguins. This is the problem. I still think the penguin just looks a bit alien in this set. I don't think it quite matches. I feel like if I wanted to do like a super like arty minimalist type animation, I think it would work on this set. Maybe using some sort of like silhouettes of people or something, like in like a black cutout silhouette type shape. Might have a go at that at some point, but not today. We are doing the penguin animation. This is why I made the penguins. So I don't think this is going to quite work. Thankfully, I do have another option I wanted to try. I wanted to try making some trees out of wood. So I'm going to have a go at that next and hope that works, because I do not have a third option on trees. So for the wooden trees, we are going to be using, spoiler alert, wood, which is obviously what trees are made of in the first place, so seems a logical start, doesn't it? These aren't actually the right thickness that I need. I think they're a bit too thin because I don't think they're going to stand up on their own. I mean, obviously they won't be this tall, but that does not want to stand. I don't know why I'm like trying to make wood fall over. This could only end badly, couldn't it? I think if I stick two together, that will probably be the right thickness. I think that's going to be a bit more sturdy and able to stand up. I know obviously they've got a slight, I don't know what the word is, they're not flat at the end, there's like a little dip in them, but I'm only going to be like cutting from the centre of them. So I think if I stick these together, should be fine. I've just wiped them down because they were a little bit dusty from being in the garage. So what I'm just going to do is just put some glue between them and clamp them together, and then hopefully tomorrow I'll have a thicker piece of wood. This is just basic wood adhesive. I mean, I assume it's PVA, any sort of like wood glue would work. You probably aren't trying to use up an old bed to make Christmas trees, are you? But that is where I find myself this morning. We've clamped that up as tightly as it will go. I'm going to leave that overnight and hope for the best. What does the glue say? Most wood will be bonded in 30 minutes. I have no faith in that being dry after 30 minutes. So we'll regroup tomorrow and see what's actually going on and whether that has worked. So it's actually 2 days later, but we're just going to take the clamps off and see if this wood has actually stuck together. The clamps are a bit tight. There's quite a dent in the wood, but hopefully, well, I'll just not use that bit. It appears to be stuck together. I don't like try and pull too hard because I don't want to like pull it apart. Like, I think for my purposes this is fine. It doesn't need to be like tested to destruction. I think what I'm going to do is try and do like triangular shapes. So rather than cutting out like your typical little child drawing a Christmas tree type shape, I think I'm just going to go with triangles. I might try some of the more traditional Christmas tree shape, but I think the triangles might look quite sort of minimalist in a kind of cool way, hopefully. Also, less work for me. So that's another good bonus point, isn't it? So I'm just going to draw these out on here and then cut them out, and then we'll see what that looks like and get painting them. So I drew some trees on the wood, then I cut those out and sanded them down. Do make sure to use safety equipment if you are doing any woodwork yourself. Then I applied a base coat of white primer to the wood. Obviously I had to do both sides, so it did take a couple of days waiting around for this to dry. And then I painted it green, which did take a few coats. There was a few days of spinning it around, painting different sides, waiting for paint to dry basically, but I got there in the end and I'm really happy with the result. I think these are a really vibrant pop of colour and they really liven up the set. So the set was looking great. For some reason I decided to make a house, which turned out to be an absolute disaster, but you will find out about that shortly. So I made a really small template for the sides of the house, and you're probably seeing now that there's a bit of a problem with that template. Stay tuned, it's going to get worse. I then took some air dry clay and rolled that out with a clay tool. I keep forgetting that I need a rolling pin for this. Whenever I'm out shopping, I forget, and then I only remember when I'm using clay. At some point I will get a rolling pin, but until that point I'm using clay tools. I then took that template I'd made and then just cut out the clay in the shape of that template. And then I made a fun brick effect on this, just drawing lines along the length of the wall and then drawing like little notches along for the little bricks. This is quite satisfying to do and I think it looks quite a cute effect. I did actually go in after this with a bit of scrunched up paper just to give it a bit of a worn look. I then realised, a few hours after I'd left this to dry, that there wasn't a roof section on the side bits of the wall. So I then tried to make a template. At first it was a little bit big, so I played around with the template to make it fit better. Again, no idea why I forgot this to start with. I just don't think I had any idea what I was doing. So then I rolled out some more clay and then cut out 2 roof sections with those little templates. If you don't have clay tools, they are really quite cheap and affordable to get hold of, but you can use like old cutlery. I've used like old table knives before. The clay hadn't dried fully, so I managed to squidge those roof bits onto the wall sections. I did put a little bit of extra clay on the back just to make sure they held on. And then I continued that brick pattern up onto the side roof section. So I left those to dry for a few hours again and then realised, oh, I hadn't actually cut out a door or some windows. Thankfully the clay hadn't fully set, so I was still able to cut these out with a little penknife. You can see obviously around the outsides where it's whiter, it's been drying, but the middle is still darker, wetter clay, so it was still slightly malleable. It wasn't the easiest thing to work with, but thankfully I remembered before it fully dried. If you're thinking, oh, you've overcome all your problems, just stay tuned guys, it is going to get worse. I then stuck it together with some tile adhesive and propped the frame up with some paint cans so it didn't fall over. I wonder if would that fit there? I mean, hopefully it'll fit there, that's what it's supposed to fit. I'm not sure if I should risk trying to put that on now or whether I should wait till the morning. So I'm just going to bung it on and we'll see what happens. If it falls off, we'll just stick some more on in the morning. I don't know what I'm doing. The next morning I came to check on it and I thought it looked alright, so I was just going to add some more tile adhesive just to try to make it a bit more solid. This very quickly went wrong. So I added some more tile adhesive and tried to stick it back together, and this time it seemed to be holding. I think the initial tile adhesive that I'd put on hadn't dried properly and that's why it fell apart. So I just stuck loads more on and just hoped it was going to dry this time because I didn't really have a backup plan about how to stick this together. So I left the house for a couple of days. I think the problem last time was I didn't leave the adhesive till dry long enough. So I think while it appeared dry on the surface, I think it was wet underneath because I'd used quite a lot. So this time, I'm scared to touch this house. It appears to have stuck. I have slightly messed up in that, like, for this side, I stuck the edges to the inside of this bit, whereas I stuck them to the outside of the end. So this side is slightly narrower and then it kind of goes out a bit. It's not a disaster and there is no way I'm making it again, so it's going to have to be fine for now. It is a little bit messy on the edges, so while I'm a bit worried about it, I am going to try and gently sand, so gently, try and sand the edges of this now, and we'll just hope it doesn't fall down. So I just used some basic sandpaper from a DIY store and just very gently went over all the edges to try and smooth them out. If you're doing this, do make sure to wear a mask. I think that's fine. I think if I do any more, I'm going to risk like breaking it or something, and I really don't want to risk that. So I'm going to leave that, get to the painting. I got some black and white acrylic paint and just went over the sides of the cottage with varying shades of grey. Once that had dried, I went in with some different colours. I mixed up some brown along with the black and white just to give a bit more of depth of colour to those cobblestones that the cottage is made of, and also to make it look a bit more worn and old. For the roof sections, I took a rectangle of hardboard and stuck popsicle sticks on that with PVA glue. I did weigh these down with a weight because they were a bit bouncy and I didn't think they were going to stick. If I fit it so it's like fitted at that side, there's a huge gap at this side which is obviously user error. I think what I'm going to do is make sure it's like correctly stuck down this side and along the bottom, and we're going to fill in this situation here. I've just stuck those roof sections on with some hot glue because they weren't stuck the whole way around because of the problems I'd had making the building section of the cottage. I did just bung loads of glue in the middle of this roof just to try and make it stay on. There was some slight gaps between the building and the roof, so I stuck some thick cardboard inside the cottage with some hot glue just to cover up those gaps, which obviously doesn't look that visually appealing, so I went in with some paint just to cover that up and try and camouflage it. I also added some paint to the underside of the roof just to cover up the wood there and make it look more natural and in keeping with the rest of the cottage. I then cut a little door out of some balsa wood and added a little doorknob on there just with some black pen, and then stuck that inside the cottage with some hot glue. Obviously not doing a great job here, but it got stuck in the end. So after a lot of going on, I finally had the house ready, but I wasn't really sure what to do with the windows. I thought about maybe putting curtains in, but it just kind of like, it looked a bit drab, so I wanted to try and put some light inside them. So I tried putting like a little tea light inside them, which I wasn't sure about. In stop motion, one thing I really struggle with is trying to not have any flicker from any natural light, and I guess fire is one of the most natural lights. It looks nice, but I think the flicker was a problem. Also, literally 30 seconds in and it was melting the glue. And given the absolute nightmare it was to try and make this little house, I was not gonna like self-destruct it with fire. So I went out and bought some tiny Christmas lights and put them inside, and I think it looks super cute. I mean, not as cute as my book nook, but still I think it's pretty cute. You can, if you look close enough, see there's like wiring and stuff from the lights inside, but I think it's fine. It's not going to be perfect because it's not made in a shop, it's handmade. It's always just going to look a bit rustic is definitely the vibe we're going for in this video. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it looks, and I think it really fits well into the scenery of the animation. I think it gives it a nice like cozy look, which is kind of what I'm going for here. It's Christmas, we're going with kind of cute cozy vibes. I'm really happy with these trees. I think these went really well. I quite like the sort of simplistic, slightly abstract nature of them. So they don't actually clutter up the set. So here's a picture of them actually in the animation, and I think they just like add a fun, vibrant pop of colour and quite simply get across the idea that, hey, this is trees, which is not a difficult concept to get your head around, is it? I also think they look quite cute just like in my house, like as just sort of Christmas ornaments and stuff. I did also make one that was more Christmas tree shaped. So here I have that one. It's look a little bit wonky. I think this looks fine, but I do actually just prefer the like basic triangular ones. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how they've all worked out. I think the finished set looks really nice. I think there's a lovely range of different colours, and I think it quite sort of easily gets across that we're in some sort of Antarctic region. Unlike, I still can't believe like penguins live in Australia. They must be like absolutely sweating in Australia. I mean, I'm currently sweating now. I would not cope well in Australia, not least because all the animals are actively trying to kill you at all times. On to less horrifying things. I have a little Christmas stop motion animation planned. I think this is the 3rd year in a row I've done a stop motion animation for Christmas, which is why I've been making my little penguins and obviously the set decoration for my set. So that will be dropping in 2 weeks. So do make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my creative shenanigans, and I will see you all again really soon. Bye.